Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Tracy Berger, and today I'm going to read to you from my new story, Cemetery Sisters, which will appear in the new anthology called Witches, Warriors, and Wise Women, edited by Jason Graves and published by Perspective Press. You can pre-order this anthology today. So Cemetery Sisters takes place in post-apocalyptic America. The title character is a young woman named Welcome Sparks, and the story involves an element of fantasy and, of course, witches. Cemetery Sisters. The cemetery never scared Welcome Sparks, even as a child. Cutting through it to get home provided the quickest route and allowed unrivaled use of her imagination. She would make up stories about people looking for the oldest headstones. Most days after school, before it got dark, she'd pick an interesting gravestone, settle in, and strike up a conversation. She'd share things that didn't sit right in her mind. She might say, "Anna Sterling of 1950. If you were here, I'd show you around Thistleview. Not that there's very much to see. In your day, I bet you used to go into that old city called Tulsa, not too far from here. It's not there anymore, Anna." Or, "One day the preacher's wife slapped me for not wearing a slip. After service, she asked me to come to the back to talk to her, and before I knew it, she had her beefy hand on me. The preacher's wife said, 'Welcome, can't you see your breasts are falling out of that dress? Do you want to end up like your mother?' Mama never said I had to wear a slip, Anna. I don't even have a slip. I stopped going to church after that. The preacher's wife doesn't bother me anymore. She doesn't even speak to me at all. She just looks right through me as if I'm some piece of old cobweb. Were slips big in your day, Anna? I bet they were. People had money back then, from what I've read. They went places that needed slips." On this day, Welcome made her way through the forested part of the cemetery, where the red cedars were thickest and some of the oldest headstones lay. She paused and sniffed, noticing the coolness in this part of the cemetery. She then heard the words sung by a female voice. "My funny Valentine. Sweet comic Valentine. You make me smile with my heart." Goosebumps pebbled her pale skin, and she hunched into her ragged coat. The phrases repeated, and Welcome looked toward the nearest stand of trees. She darted behind one and then another, thinking that maybe she had been followed by some of her stupid classmates. After a few minutes of frantic searching and finding no singers, she knew no one in town that sounded as good as that voice. And with every vein straining in her face, she listened. Another female voice rang out, this one deeper in tone. "We're trying to come through. Come to us." The moment seared her like when she waited for the once-a-month afternoon train. On most days, Welcome dreamed of getting on to the train to leave town. She imagined holding a bag of butterscotch candies in one hand and an old suitcase in the other. Wherever Welcome stood or sat, she sensed the trains, every part of her alert and yearning. Pricks of excitement and danger bit into her, making her hop from foot to foot. She couldn't make herself stand still. Nothing she had heard so far in her life sounded as good as these voices. It made her feel as if her favorite butterscotch candies were melting on her tongue. No, it was as if she floated in warm butterscotch candy. She ran up and down the stretch of the cemetery. Welcome overturned rocks, peeked behind headstones, climbed a small tree, and searched for the origin of those voices until she could barely see in front of her. Exhausted, she remembered her responsibilities. Mama will wonder where dinner is. "Please, whatever you are, come to me," she said at last, the frustration catching in her throat. On the rest of the walk home, as the sun sank, a feeling of utter sadness swept over Welcome. Maybe everyone in town is right. I'm going crazy, like Mama. So the second scene that I'm going to read is a little bit later, where Welcome is talking to her mother. And I'm just going to read a brief piece of that. Day after day, it felt to Welcome that color and definition leaked out of her world. She still could find no voice and no music. She had imagined it all. Welcome, come over here, her mother screeched. Welcome rose from her bed to see what her mother wanted. Her mother sat in the bathtub with several candles lit. Her cup of amber liquid was still full, which told Welcome that she had only been soaking for a short time. My back needs a scrub, her mother said, closing her eyes and pointing. Welcome avoided as much as she could looking at her mother's pale, naked body. She, however, could see her mother's breasts well in the candlelight. They looked fallen to her, and not just flat, as she'd seen of long ago primitive women in ancient magazines, but fallen as if all the life that lived inside her mother had given way. At least she's not lifting and playing with them, Welcome thought, like she usually does. Mama doesn't know she's crazy. She hears voices and talks to them. Maybe that's the way it will be for me. At least I won't lift my dress in public. I'm reminding myself not to do that to myself right now. Maybe I'll be a funny old crazy woman. Welcome grabbed the old and worn loofah, picked off the moldy spots, and began. While she scrubbed her mother's ruddy-colored back dotted with moles, she occupied herself by counting how many ants crawled around one claw foot of the tub. I'm thinking of your daddy tonight, her mother said. Yeah? Welcome said, not trying to show undue curiosity, which would require more scrubbing, but hearing anything about her father was always of interest. He brought me to this house and said, "Welcome home, you're mine." And we lived just fine. And I fixed him eggs and Spam when we could get it, almost burned, 'cause that's the way he liked it, her mother said. Her mother grunted as if the memory poked at her now. She continued slightly above a whisper. He'd go away with a crew and scavenge in the worst of the old cities, make his money and come back to me. No matter what people in town said about me, he never cared. He never cared. He never cared. He didn't care that I even heard voices when I started living here. Thanks for listening. I'm Michelle Tracy Berger, and this was from Cemetery Sisters, being published by Perspective Press. Pre-order today.